exciting time in my life in the Marine Corps. As you remember, our last session, I kicked around several bases and finally ended up in El Toro in 1947 and was released from the Corps and put on inactive duty and had some leave coming, so I really didn't get out until I think it was March. In January I had the VA bill, so I went back. I had 16 units to finish in college. Went back and finished my college degree, and my dad was a contractor, so I got a job for him for $1.50 an hour setting forms and tying rebar. The government paid me $90 a month to go to school. I had a job with the boys organization I worked with prior to going into World War II, and I had what was called a council. It was like a Boy Scout troop that I met with 3 different nights a week, 3 different councils, and I got $15 a night for that. And I went down and joined the Marine Reserve Squadron at Los Alamitos, and they paid me, I think it was $110 or $120 a month for meeting 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks every year for maneuvers. It was a lot of fun. The squadron was in a Navy base, so we got checked out in the F-6F fighter that the Navy had fought in World War II with. It was a good little plane, and we had a lot of fun with it. We had all the guys in the squadron. There were 24 guys in the squadron. All of them were veterans. All of them had a lot of time, a lot of combat, and we had a lot of grab-ass fun, and a lot of flying, and just a good time. And went on maneuvers 3 times, one time down a low field in New Orleans, around New Orleans, another time up at the Great Lakes Naval Air Station, and the final time was at Cherry Point, North Carolina. At Cherry Point, our squadron won the award for being the best qualified squadron in the reserve program. So I got home first part of June 1950, maybe middle of June. My brother and I had a cabin up at Lake Arrowhead that we spent the weekends with the family. I was coming back on a Sunday night from the cabin and heard that the North Koreans had crossed the 38th parallel and were engaging in battle with the South Koreans. I went home and was thoughtful about what the hell was going to happen. And about the end of the month, around the 27th, 28th, our skipper, Major Carr, called and said, I just got a heads up from the reserve commandant, and he just wanted me to get you guys heads up. We're liable to be activated to active duty. On July the 5th, 1950, I got a wire to report to El Toro Marine Air Station before 2400 hours on the 15th of July. And so it gave us 10 days to get our personal affairs all fixed up and get down to El Toro. And we got down there, checked into the BOQ, checked in with the duty officer, got our orders squared away. And the skipper said he wanted to have a meeting, which we got together, had a squadron meeting, and he said that we were not being activated as a squadron, that the squadron number was going to stay at Los Alamitos, and we were going to be split up among the regular squadrons that were existing. 6 of us got assigned to BMF 312, checkerboard squadron, and this was filled up with 24 regular officers that had been together quite a long time. And we had a skipper, Lieutenant Colonel Cole, and our executive officer was a guy by the name of Dan Davis, a major, and the flight officer was a guy by the name of Phil Dufresne. And so 6 of us were assigned from the reserve squadron to BMF 312. And the guys were really neat. They were appreciative of the reserve guys being activated and coming aboard. These guys were really nice. We had a get-together cocktail party at the Okla the first night that we were there, and they really treated us nice. They brought us right in. We hadn't flown F-4U since World War II, so we got checked out in the F-4U again, and these guys took us around the area, showed us what was going on, and really were good to us. I flew with them for about 4, 5, 6 days, and I was out on a gunnery aerial gunnery hop one day where we shoot at a towed sleeve to practice our aerial gunnery. And came back and the duty officer says, Godbey General wants to see you at 1300 hours over at the wing headquarters in his office. And I said, gee, are you sure? Yes, sir. He said, just got a call from Captain Brown, who was his aide, that you'd be there 1300 hours. So I went back over the BOQ, put on a clean set of khakis, and got over there at 1300 hours, and said Les Brown was a guy that I had known in World War II, and I said, Les, what the hell's going on? What does the general want to see me about? And he said, well, I think he wants to get your information about how to run this damn wing, and that's the only thing I can think of. So he laughed and I laughed, and pretty soon it was 1300 hours, and the general buzzed Les on the phone, and Les said, yes, sir, he's here. And so Les knocked at the door, and the general yelled, enter, and went in, and Les said, Captain Godbey, this is Major General Field Harris. And the general got up, came around his desk, shook my hand, and said, sure glad that you were able to come over. I wanted to chat with you, and bless your excuse. So Les went back to his office, and the general said, sit down, I want to talk to you a minute. He had my flight jacket on his desk. I could see my name on it. And he sat down and he said, Les Brown is being rotated, and he's going to be an exchange pilot in an Air Force squadron, and I'm going to need an aide. But I don't want to get a regular officer as an aide because I'm not going to need an aide very long. And you've been highly recommended, and I'd like to have you consider being my aide. It's not going to be any permanent thing for a 2-year tour of duty like is normal, but it'll be until I don't need an aide anymore. So if you'd consider this, I'd really appreciate it. Well, when a major general says, would you consider something, you don't say, well, give me a couple of days and I'll think about it. You say, yes, sir, what time do you want me to report aboard? So I said, I'd be happy to do that for you, General. And he said, good. You go out and Les will check you out on the duties. He said, I think there's some kind of syllabus out there that tells you what you're supposed to do. And you get the braid from Les, you wear a braid around his shoulder, gold and red braid, and you get a couple of little emblems that you put on your lapel that shows you're a general's aide. So I went outside and I said, Les, the general wants me to replace you and be his aide. And he said, yeah, I knew about that. He said, there's been a lot of people around here recommending you, and so it's a good job, you're going to enjoy it, he's a good guy. And I said, well, you know, what do I do? And he said, well, the most important thing that you do, and this is very important, you go to the mess hall every morning when you have chow and you get a slice of apple and put it in his humidor, and you smoke the pipe. And he said, if you raise that humidor up and there's not a fresh apple in there, he's going to raise hell with you. So I was sure that I did that. The general was really a neat old guy. We were around there for, Les kind of checked me out, and I think it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday, something like that. Anyway, Friday, the general said, you go home and take the weekend off and come back Monday morning and be here early because we're going to have a board meeting and a staff meeting, and I want to introduce you to my staff. So I got there early, 8 o'clock, we go into the staff room, and there were 3 full colonels in there. And he introduced me to Colonel Dyer, Colonel Hooper, and then he said, this is my operations officer, this is Colonel Robert Shaw. And Robert Shaw said, Godbey, I can't believe this. And he said to the general, he said, you know, I took this guy out of the fighter pool at Guadalcanal and put him in dive bombers, and he was really pissed off about that. But he lived through it. He came back, and then I put him in a fighter squadron and assured him that he wouldn't be going overseas for 10 months. He was aboard a carrier in 3 months. And he got back from that and he said, if you want to hear some sea stories, General, you talk to Godbey because he was there. So we had a big laugh, and Robert Shaw was always a good buddy of mine, and we had a good laugh about that. The general told the staff, he said, we got a heads up, and we're going to be going to Japan probably within about 3 or 4 days. And so you guys get your gear in shape and be ready to move out. We're going to fly over, and we're going to be at Itami Air Base in Japan. That's where the 1st Marine Air Wing will be based. So a couple, 3 or 4 days later, while we get on an airplane, fly to Hawaii, spend overnight, I think, in Hawaii. The general had to see some people or something. Next day we flew to Iwo. The general's never been to Iwo, and I've never been on the ground in Iwo. So we flew, and they had a major, a Marine Corps major there, who met us and put us in a carryall and took us all over Iwo in the caves. Saw how these Japanese guys lived, how they had hacked out bunks in the lava, the hospital, their mess hall, and they lived like rats down in that crazy place. Anyway, it was a neat experience, and that black asphalt sand was all over everything, of course. And we flew from there to Tommy Air Base in Japan, and we're located in Japan. and one morning, the general, about maybe a week later, the general, I was in the office and got a call from the general headquarters in Japan, General MacArthur's headquarters. So I buzzed the general and I said, General MacArthur's headquarters on the phone for you, sir. He picked up the phone, talked a little while, and hung up, and he came out and he said, get your your greens on tomorrow. Take about 4 or 5 days of clothes with you. We're going to Tokyo. And so I said, okay. So we got in an airplane the next morning, flew up to Tokyo, got to Tokyo about, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Went over to the Daiichi building where MacArthur had his headquarters, and went up into a conference room. And the conference room was probably about as big as this room. And U-shaped chairs and tables around in front of the podium. And so all the generals and the admirals and all these guys were in there. I was probably the most junior officer in the whole damn place. And all the aides and junior officers sat against the wall around the room. So we were there maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and General Ullman and General Willoughby came in and got at the podium. And then all of a sudden somebody said, attention on the deck, and all of these generals and admirals and everybody jumped up like a bunch of cadets. And here comes General MacArthur. He comes in, welcomes everybody aboard. Very distinguished guy. I was very impressed with him. And welcome everybody aboard. And General Ullman and General Willoughby then briefed all of these generals and admirals. And they were going to have an invasion at Incheon on the 15th of September. Now this was probably, I'm guessing with you, the first part of August, let's say. I think before the 10th of August, I could be mistaken. But anyway, each one of these ranking guys had a folder in front of him, and they had maps all over the wall and everything. And Ullman said that we had to make this invasion by the 15th when the tide was high, and if we didn't make it on the 15th, then it was going to be the 30th, October the 15th or 18th or something like that. And we didn't want to make it that late because the 8th Army was going to make a breakout at Busan, and we were going to we were going to land at Incheon and trap all of these North Koreans and have them in a scissor and be able to destroy them. So it had to be on the 15th. The tide at Incheon was like 15 or 16 feet. And it was only in the high tide was only for like 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and then it went out and it was really bad. So the generals all got their stuff. The general got into a little room and he said, you get a hold of Robert Shaw and you tell him that we're going to have a meeting. Well, I'm going to fly out of here about, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I want to have a meeting at 7 o'clock tonight or whatever time it was. And so we flew back to Tommy. He had the staff together, went over the briefing with the staff, and told each one of them what their responsibilities were going to be. And we're supposed to be back up at headquarters in Tokyo, I think in 2 days or 3 days, with a whole plan about what the 1st Marine Air Wing was going to be doing. So 2 or 3 days later, we fly back up and get into this conference room again, and each one of these admirals and generals have a plan of how their particular operation is going to go. Now, if you ever want to see anything interesting, it's to see how these guys put together a battle plan, and especially in this short notice. Everybody knows exactly what they'll have to do, how many ships there's going to be, where the troops are going to be picked up, where the equipment's going to be picked up, how the transport should be loaded so they can offload the right stuff at the right time. I mean, it was absolutely amazing for a guy that had no knowledge about any of this stuff to sit and listen to the detail and the wonderful things that these guys did. So anyway, we were up there a couple of days for that session. Then we went back to Tommy, and about a week later, we went aboard a heavy cruiser. I don't remember the name of the heavy cruiser. Now this is like maybe the 5th or 6th or 7th of September. And we get aboard this heavy cruiser, and we take off for Korea, and we go in the Yellow Sea, and we go up, and the channel going up to Incheon is called the Flying Fish Channel. It's a very narrow channel, and we had a destroyer out in front of the convoy, and a destroyer back of us so that they could lead us up. And the troop, we were like maybe the 2nd or 3rd ship. The troop transports and the equipment transports, everything else was behind us. We get up there, and on the 14th, they send a battalion of Marines ashore at, I think it's called Wandong Island, if I remember. And they had to take this island because it was right in the head of the landing spot, and they had field guns there that could knock us out. So they captured the island. The next day, the 15th, oh, before that, let me tell you, before that, about a day before the landing, the general called me into his quarters, and he said, "I need a favor, Godbey." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, the forward air controller for the 1st Battalion of the 5th Marines had got an acute appendicitis, and they flew him back to Yokosuka to be operated on, and they need a forward air controller. And he said, "Now, I know you're not trained as a forward air controller, but I also know from reading your flight jacket that you did a lot of forward air control work in Okinawa, and also as a reservist, you guys were practicing forward air control. So you know what the system is, and I really need some help." And I said, "Yes, sir. What do I do?" And he said, "Well, you go do this for me, and probably only be 3 weeks or something like that. And this other captain will be out of the hospital, and he'll come up and relieve you. And then," he said, "you can have any assignment that you want in this Marine Corps. If you want to go back into the fighter squadron, you just tell me which squadron, and you got it." So I said, "Okay, sir." So he said, "This afternoon, you get your gear together and get on the quarterdeck, and they're going to lower the sea ladder, and there'll be a boat over here to pick you up and take you over the troop transports where you go ashore." So the boat came over, I went down the sea ladder, got aboard the little dinghy kind of a boat, went over this troop transport, went up. "Permission to come aboard, sir?" "Yes, sir." Saluted the colors. There's a Marine captain there. I think his name was McVeigh or McKay or something, I can't remember. And he said, "Are you Godbey?" "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, follow me." I go down, and where his company was, and I get, he was bunking with this guy that got the appendicitis, so he said, I had a parachute bag with my gear in it. He said, "Well, you can't take that ashore." He said, "We'll get you a knapsack." So I took a clean pair of utilities and some clean skivvies and socks and T-shirts stuck in this bag. They gave me some leggings to put on. Never had leggings on my whole damn life. Put the leggings on. I took the guy's carbine, and that was it. And so we go up, and he's briefing me on the company that I'm going to be with. And I said, "How are we going to get on that boat?" And he said, "You're going down the net. Yeah, net. What's in?
Cargo net.
Yeah, cargo net." And I said, "Jesus, I'm going to get down there." And he said, "Not to worry." He said, "I'm going to be riding with you, and I'll help you down. You get in a boat, and we'll go ashore." So I got down the cargo net without falling down, and got in the Higgins boat. Went ashore. We were the 2nd wave. The first wave was companies A, B, and C, as I remember. We were in company, I think, H, G or H. I can't remember for sure. Anyway, we got to the tide was coming out pretty good, and we were about, from here to the wall, from where the ladders were to go up the seawall. Now these ladders were not ladders like you think of. These were 2x6 ladders about maybe 4 or 5 feet wide with 2 by 4 rungs on them to climb up to get over the seawall. So we had to wait about, 20, 30 yards to get to the ladders to go up the seawall. And the guys that went up there, of course, there's mud all over these damn rungs, and they're slippery, and it's hard to hold on to them and get your feet on them and get up. Seawall was about 16 feet high, and you got on top and it dropped down. The other side, maybe 3 or 4 feet, dropped down, and there's 3 or 4 machine gun nests along there with dead gooks in them, where the first wave had killed these guys, and they was a firefight about maybe 100 yards in front of us, where the first wave was just getting into the town. So we were 2 companies, and we went along just behind the first wave, which were 3 companies, and we got captured Incheon that afternoon, and bivouacked in some of the houses that night, laid down on the floor and slept, and then next morning we started out doing the same thing, and I got to meet the battalion came aboard, and I got to meet the battalion commander, who was a Lieutenant Colonel, I think it was Myers, Lieutenant Colonel Myers, hell of a guy, really a good guy. So he was glad to have me help him, and he said, now what you will be doing is you'll be out with the point company most of the time, and gave me a radio man, guy by the name of Leonard Cook. They called him a donkey because he carried a radio pack on his back. So they always referred to him as, you got your donkey with you. And so Cook and I got together pretty good and got a Jeep. We had a Jeep most of the time, but a lot of times we'd have to dump the Jeep and hike out wherever the company was, the lead company of whatever operation they were doing. So we captured the airport there at, I'll think of the name in a second. Kimpo. Captured Kimpo on time, and I think it was 2 or 3 days we had Kimpo captured, and we were working in towards Seoul, and most of the time I'd be with a company and then come back to a company's headquarters and spend the night. But every now and then I'd have to go back to the battalion headquarters, and thank you. I'd have to go back to the battalion headquarters and get briefed by the battalion briefing guys of what company was going to be in the point the next day, and we'd be expected to be with that company the next day. So we spent a great deal of the time on the point. The combat was not that bad. These guys that we were fighting with were not the first grown troops of the North Korean Army for sure. And anyway, we kept going along, and we got up to Seoul, and the 5th was designated to take Seoul. So they had some pontoon bridges across the river, and we went across the river, and we're right on the outskirts of Seoul. And Cook and I had to go back to the battalion headquarters that night and got a radio message for us to come back that night. So we're in a Jeep on the way back, and right outside of a place called Aspen City, I got hit with a phosphorus shell and burnt my hand and my face and got some shrapnel in my belly here. And so I was air evac out to Osaka, hospital in Osaka. I spent about 3 weeks in a hospital and went back to Tommy and the headquarters squadron guy. Said, oh man, I'm glad to see you. We're going to make you the commanding officer of the headquarters squadron, and I can go get in the squadron. I said, hey, no way. No way I'm going to do that. The general said I could have any squadron I wanted. I want to get back with VMF 312. And he said, well, hell, he said, you know, they have a new skipper. Colonel Cole was sent back to the States, and they got a new skipper by the name of Don Frame. And you can't go back there unless Don Frame approves you. And I said, well, fine, you get a hold of the general and make sure that what I'm telling you is true. which he did. He sent telex over there, what the hell ever they did. And he said, yeah, the general said that's what you're supposed to do. So I said, well, I'm going to get in an airplane and fly over. Where's VMF 312? And he said they're at K3, which was right outside of, what? Yeah. So I flew over, I got a Corsair, flew across the sea of Japan, landed K3, and the guys saw me. I taxied up to the area. The guys saw me get out and they said, "Jesus, guy, thought you were killed or something." I said, no, I just hurt a little bit. My code name was Donkey, or Bulldog 1. And so these guys all knew that I was on the ground and directing their strikes. So anyway, they said, "Geez, glad to see you. What's going on?" So I'm getting back in the squadron, but I got to meet the skipper and get his approval. So they said, "Good, come on in, we'll introduce you." So went in, met Major Don Frame, and I knew Dan Davis from before. So I told the skipper what the problem was and everything. He said, "Oh, we lost 2 guys last week." He said, "I got 2 billets open. Welcome aboard." So I flew back to Tommy and got my gear and got on the mail plane the next day and got back to K3 and joined the squadron. And we operated out of K3 and hitting the guys, the North Koreans were retreating in pretty good order, but there were a lot of stragglers, and we were getting the stragglers, the trucks, the tanks that were broken down, things like that, till they got up to the 38th parallel. We then moved from K3 up to Kimpo, and we're flying out of Kimpo, and we're going beyond the 38th parallel, harassing the heck out of these guys in seek and destroy missions. And we're also on station to assist the Marines if they were having any trouble with the counterattacks or anything like that. We were using close air support to fix them, help them. So we were at Kimpo, flying north of the thing, and one day orders came in that we were to fly over to Yongpo on the east coast. So we saddled up and got our planes and went over to Yongpo, and Yongpo was just south of Hamhung. What the hell is the port there? Wonsan Harbor. And they're going to make the 10th Corps under General Allman, who's been given command of the 10th Corps. And he had the 1st Marine Division and the 26th Army Division under his command. So they were loading up at Incheon and going to go around to Wonsan and make a landing there. Well, they found out when they were getting ready to go ashore, the goddamn harbor was full of mines. So they had to get the minesweepers in there and sweep the mines. And they spent about 3 or 4 days just making a big circle out off of Wonsan. And we were out covering this great big circle of all these ships. And then we covered the landing at Wonsan. There was no opposition, of course, but we didn't know that. You never know what's going to happen when they're going to come down with a lot of people or not. Willoughby had assured MacArthur that there were no Chinese in the area. There was no way the Chinese were going to come across and be in any way fighting us in Korea. So General Smith, who was the commanding general of the 1st Division, was really upset with Allman because there was a little road going from Wonsan up to the Chosin Reservoir, and the road was about two car lengths wide, like a 2-lane road. It was a dirt road. It was frozen, but it was along the side of a mountain. In most cases, it went down in the valley. There was a river ran down alongside of it, and there was a hydro plant down about 5 miles from Wonsan. And anyway, General Allman wanted Smith to go up there and call him. And Smith said, you know, that's a bad deal. Marines can't operate that way. Marines have got to protect their flanks. They got to be, you know, they got to be flexible. And Allman said, no, you go up there and call. Really, really browned off the Marine Corps. Anyway, General Smith got the 1st Battalion, 1st Regiment up in the point, and the 7th Regiment was in the middle, and the 1st Regiment was in the end. And these regiments were about 4 or 5 miles apart, maybe 10 miles apart. And they got along okay, and they kept picking up Chinamen and debriefing the Chinamen. The Chinamen kept telling about all the armies. They were up there on the Manchurian border ready to come down into North Korea. As soon as they got far enough north where our lines were extended and they could cut them. So nobody believed them. Willoughby didn't believe them. MacArthur didn't believe them. Nobody believed them except the Marines. The Marines said, Jesus, you know, we're going to really be on the Lord. So we got up and about, I don't know, I can remember having Thanksgiving dinner down in Yongpo, a nice big dinner, and then we were covering these guys on the way up, flying cover all the way up for them. And the 5th got up to a little place called Hamdun, and they had careful perimeter, and they were really picked up enough prisoners now that they knew there was going to be some Chinese involvement. So they set up a hell of a good perimeter, and about 2 or 3 o'clock that next morning they got hit, and hit bad. I don't know how many Chinamen came down at them, but these guys were in a firefight for 3 days and 3 nights, never let up. And they really got the heck kicked out of them. And the word came up, and we're flying, and you know, I can't explain to you. We'd see like a company or 2 companies of Chinamen, and we'd drop napalm on those guys, and it would be, you know, like 400 or 500 of them on fire running around in the snow. There was 4 or 5 feet of snow on the ground. Temperature was like 30, 40 degrees below zero at night, and not much warmer than that in the daytime. We were flying at 5,000 feet most of the time, and it was so damn cold that you take your glove off to light a cigarette, and the perspiration on your hand would freeze. So you'd have to break the perspiration with ice off to get your hand working again. And we killed, I don't know how many, thousands, I don't mean hundreds, I'm talking about thousands of Chinamen. The Chinese, they estimate, had 60,000 Chinamen there, and there were 10,000 Marines on this road. So the word came to the 7th to fall, to the 5th to fall back to Hagaree, where the 7th was bivouac. So it's only like 10 miles. And these guys were fighting all the way back. I was so, you know, it's unreal to see all of this fighting going on. You're sitting up there and you're trying to help these guys, and there's so damn many Chinamen, you don't know which one to go hit. So anyway, they come back and they get, I'd say, 1/4 mile out of Hagaree. And these goddamn guys, you gotta understand, they've been in a firefight for 3.5, 4 days and nights. No sleep, no time to eat, no time to take a crap, nothing, just fighting. So they saddled up, and they were 4 abreast, and they saddled up, put their rifles on their shoulders, and marched into this damn town. And the 7th Marines were standing on each side of the road, just cheering, waving. And then the equipment came, and behind them, the rear guard was another group of Marines saddled up, rifles on their shoulders, marching in. And the 7th had set up warming tents, and they had a field kitchen up there for some hot chow. And these guys just went in the tents, laid down on the army cots, and went to sleep. And I think most of them slept for a whole day or night. Got some hot chow. We were there maybe 2 or 3 days, and got the equipment. All the equipment came out. The dead and the wounded came out, and got rested up for 2 or 3 days. And then they had to go down to meet the 1st Regiment, which was at Coterie, and this was Jesse Puller's regiment. Well, now there's 2 regiments and going down the road, and the Chinamen are on the hills above them, and I mean just hundreds of them all around and behind them, and it's just one solid firefight the whole time. And so we're covering these guys the best we could. And the weather gets bad, you can't fly, you're sitting down in Yongpo. knowing these guys are getting the hell kicked out of them and there's nothing you can do to help them. And it's very frustrating. So anyway, on the third day, we got up there and got our share of them. We got down to Chessie Puller's place, formed up again, and they'd blown Chinaman had blown a bridge going across the stream down by the hydro plant, and the engineers had put a temporary bridge across there that they had flown in from Busan or someplace and dropped it, and it was really, in like 2 days they put this damn bridge across this canyon. And so they was able to get the trucks and the tanks and the dozers down, all the way down this mountain. The Chinamen set up roadblocks. So about every mile, the dozers would have to come in and knock down a roadblock, and all the transports are all sitting there. The Chinese are up there just shooting everything they can at them, and just a constant firefight. And that's when we really came in, because when they set up a roadblock, then we could get up on the ridges and really keep the Chinamen's head down, because they knew they were going to get burned or machine gunned if they didn't lay down and be quiet. So anyway, we got to Coterie, and then got out into the harbor again. And behind us, the Marines took out all their gear, all of their dead and wounded that they could find, and any piece of equipment that was broken down, they destroyed. Any supplies that they couldn't get loaded on, they destroyed. Fired them up so the Chinese couldn't have them. And behind this whole group of Marines was probably, 2,000 or 3,000 North Korean farmers, the people that lived up in the mountain. They wanted out, they didn't want the Chinese to get them. So here's all these civilians, and they're trying to give these civilians some sea rations just to live on, and some water, and it was really a mess, but the Marines were trying their best to take care of these poor civilians. So anyway, they embarked on Wonsan, got on the ships and the transports, got the equipment aboard, took 2 or 3 days, and shoved off for Busan. And we were still young folks, so our job was then, there was a tremendous amount of supplies that had been stacked up. Our job then was to get over and drop napalm on all these supplies and burn everything that we could burn, which we did. And then we flew back to Busan, fueled up, and flew back to Atami. And we spent Christmas at Atami. There was a hotel in Osaka called the New Osaka Hotel, and we rented a suite at this hotel. Squadron did, and we had the goddamnest party you can't believe. We really had a great time, great party. We're glad to be alive and glad to be out of the Incheon Reservoir. This was now middle of end of December, let's say, and we got orders to go down to a place called Bofu, and Bofu was at the end of the island down there. It had formerly been a kamikaze base, had wooden barracks, good runway, about 6,000-foot concrete runway. So we flew down there, and we were operating out there, flying across the Sea of Japan to K3, fueling up the K3, and then going and looking for targets of opportunities. By now, the North Koreans have gone. The Chinese were all over the 38th parallel, and were trying to destroy all their equipment and people we could find of theirs. And we were there at Bofu for maybe a week or 2 weeks. Got orders that we were going aboard carrier. So the USS Baton came sailing in there one afternoon, and the squadron that was on it got relieved, and we went aboard the ship. The riggers were going to fly the ships aboard, the planes aboard. So all of us reserve guys and we got aboard the ship and found our quarters. And this again was coming out of that Chosin Reservoir and getting aboard a carrier with linen tablecloths and hot chow and china and silver and messmen to take care of you, and clean laundry and clean sheets. It was just like dying and going to heaven. So we were on the Baton, and the guys flew the planes aboard the next morning about 10 or 11 o'clock. That afternoon, the skipper called me. He said, "I got to see you in the red room." So in the red room, he said, "I've just been looking at your flight log, and you're not carrier qualified." And I said, "Jesus, skipper, got over 50 traps aboard carriers, the fuel effort carriers in World War II, and he said, yeah, I know that, it's in there. We said, you know, you got to qualify every year. I said, no, I didn't know that. And he said, yeah, you got to qualify every year to be carrier qualified. And he said, have you done any FCLPs, field carrier practice landings? And I said, no. He said, 5 years you haven't done any FCLPs? You haven't been aboard here for 5 years? I said, yeah, that's right. He said, well, I don't want to lose you. So he said, I'm telling you, he said, do you feel comfortable? And I said, oh, yeah. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. After the first flight goes out tomorrow morning, you're going to go off and fly a pattern. You come in and land. If you do it right, you're going to be in the squadron. If you screw up, you go back to K3 and wait there, and I'll figure out, you know, where to send you and get you doing something else. So I got Monk Moncrief, was our LSO officer. I got him in the ready room and said, Jesus, Monk, you know, I haven't done any FCLPs or anything else, but I went through the school, I know everything about it. And he says, yeah, don't worry, we'll work it out. He said, have you ever been on a catapult? I said, no, didn't have those on the Bennington. He said, well, come on, and we went up on the deck. And the catapult is probably maybe 100 feet long, and you go from 0 to 90 knots in that 100 feet. And so he told me what you do, and it's just like deck launch, and you get a 1-finger wave up and then a 2-finger wave up, and then the guy shoots you off. So he said, instead of just going off easy, he said, you get your head back against the head rest and keep it back there because you're going to go very quick. So I said, okay. Next morning, what I want you to do is circle the ship a couple of times and then do your upwind leg, come across the bow, make a nice downwind leg, and make a good carrier approach. And he said, I'll get you aboard, don't worry about it. So anyway, the next morning after the flight went off, I go up and get in an airplane, and the man in the yellow T-shirts take me up to the catapult. They blocked me in the catapult. I've never been shot in my life. So I got my trim set like it's supposed to, had my flaps down, had everything the way, checked out the way I was supposed to have it. Gave it, checked my mags, gave it a good finger wave up. I go 2-finger wave up, checked all my instruments, full power, everything looked good. Salute, and he sends me off, and bang, before I know it, I'm in the air. First thing you do is pull your wheels up, clean your airplane up as fast as you can. Then you milk your flaps up, get those up, and then you can come back on your RPM and throttle and start in a climbing deal. So I circled the carrier a couple of times at about 3,000 or 4,000 feet. Came down, got alongside the bridge, did a crosswind, come downwind, lowered my wheels, my flaps, the tail hook, and started in my approach, which aboard a carrier, all naval aviators, marine aviators, learn to make one small turn to a landing. So it's called a one leeward turn. So I started my turn, and I've seen Monk down there, and Monk's got a Roger on me, and he keeps the Roger on me, and I think, geez, I'm really doing okay. But I don't know whether I'm all right or he just hit me aboard. So anyway, pretty soon he gives me this, which means get your nose up a little bit. So I know that, you know, he's really watching me. So I get my nose up and he Rogers, and then he gives me a little bit, come on, give it a little throttle, and get over the stern of the deck, and he gives me a cut. I cut, and when you land aboard, you dive to the deck and then pull your nose up, and your tail hits the deck, and your hook theoretically grabs the wire. So I did a good job, made a good landing, caught the 2 or 3 wire, whatever, and the yellow man grabs me, taxied forward, pulled my wings, open my cowl flaps, and get to the elevator. And I get out, and the plane's going to go down the elevator. I get out and go back in the ready room. The skipper had been on the bridge with the captain and I can't think of the operations
Air boss.
Air boss. And so the skipper comes down and sticks his hand out, and he said, "Welcome aboard, Godbey. You're still in the squadron." And I said, "Well, that's great, skipper. I really appreciate that." So we're flying off the carrier for This is January, and let me tell you something. It is cold, and it is miserable, and the seas are terrible, and the weather is horrible in the Yellow Sea in the wintertime. It is unreal. And the only thing that really shook me up, and it shakes everybody up, is when the seas are rough, and you got 10, 20-foot waves, and the ship is going into the wind, so it means it's quartering into these waves. And when they shoot you off a catapult, you look right down and all you see is water. And you're going like 80, 90 knots, banging, all you see is water. And just as you get to the end of the ship, the bow comes up and you're off in the air. So I don't care how many times I've done that, my bunghole puckered. And there's just no way to keep from doing that. So anyway, we're operating and we're trying to get these Chinese guys so they're discouraged and go home. And we do a lot of seek and destroy missions. And a lot of them are routine. You get trucks, you get tanks, you get trains, whatever you can find to destroy, you do. One day, Mac McLaughlin, who was one of my buddies, was flying wing on me, and we see a train's engine part out of the tunnel, and the railroad track goes down through this canyon. And so I said, "Goddamn, Mac, there's a train right there, let's go get it." And Mac said, "Oh, I don't know about that." He said, "You know, we've got to fly down that canyon. There may have a fuel fire set up, and we're going to have to fly through that." I said, "Don't worry about that. I don't think they do." Well, we start down after the train, and sure enough, field of fire was there. I mean, they're shooting 20 millimeters at us. And they don't try to hit you. They just set up a field of fire. You got to fly through. So anyway, we fly through this, and I got hit on the starboard wing and put a hole in there, I don't know, this big around, and got the train. We rocketed. In those days we had, in the F4U5, we had 4 rockets on each wing. We had 8 rockets. So we rocketed the train, and it blew up. And we come out of there and make a turnout, and I said to Mac, I said, "Jesus, Mac, I'm in real trouble." I said, "The goddamn airplane keeps stalling out on me. I got to either go 100 to 105 knots, and if I go below that, it starts shaking and stalling. If I go above that, it starts shaking and stalling." So he calls the Mayday, and there's a F-86 base not too far away, maybe 20, 30 miles away. So we fly down to that F-86 base and call in for emergency landing, and come in and make a long, slow approach, 105, 110 knots, just off the ground, make a wheels landing, and all these goddamn Air Force guys are lined up on the side of the runway waiting to see me burn. So make a nice wheels landing, tail comes down, taxi over, one of the sergeants comes over the airplane and said, "What's your problem?" I said, "The hole in the wing." Oh, he said, "That's no big deal, we'll patch that up." So he gets some guys in, and they put a patch on this hole in the wing, and it was a pretty good sized hole, and sort of in the leading edge of the wing. So I go out the next day. I spent the night with these F-86 pilots, and I had a good conversation with them. They were shooting down MiGs, and I was interested in, how they were doing and all that stuff, and they were interested in us and our carrier operations and what we were doing. So it was a nice evening. And next day I go out, and the big patch is on there, and the line chief said, "It's ready to go, why don't you take it out and test fly it?" So I said, okay. I took it out, circled around the base, and everything seemed to be good, no problem. And so I called the carrier and said, I'm ready to come aboard. And they said, "Well, we got a flight coming aboard at, 10:30 or whatever time it was. And be sure your IFF is on, identification, friend or foe, and you gotta have that on when you start towards that ship. Make sure your IFF is on and follow that flight in." So they told me we were rendezvous with the flight. They came in and all of them landed. I was the last guy, and I landed. And when you land aboard a carrier, your tail goes down and catches a wire, and then you go down hard with the wheels. And so I got a wire, went down hard with the wheels, and the goddamn wing comes off. It goes right into the barrier wire. They have big cables up, barrier cables, and anytime there's a problem, why they raise those cables up. and this thing goes scooting down there. And if I tried to go in a flight and pull out with 2 G's or something like that, the wing probably would have come off. So anyway, I got out of that one all right. I had 2 accidents aboard that carrier, and that was one of them. And the other one, a guy, I think a guy drowned or something like that. But we were on that carrier for, I don't know, I was on it for 3 or 4 months. There was a big concentration of Chinese who were bringing a ship in to a place called Chinan Po. It was a real nice harbor. One of the places that MacArthur had thought about landing the Marines, but it was just too far north, and he was afraid that he couldn't work his pincer. So anyway, the Chinese were bringing ships down at night, unloading cargo, munitions, troops, and there was a big, big bivouac area there. And we'd been working that area over for, I don't know, 8 or 10 days, something like that. Our skipper had got hit there, and when he bailed out, he hit the stabilizer of the tail and never was able to open the chute. He just went in and was killed. Some of the other guys were shot up pretty good there. And I was leading a flight of 4 planes in there, and I came in from the sea and was making a shot at Chinan Po. And there was a flight that had hit him, took off from the carrier just before I did. And must have pissed these guys off, because when I got over there, man, they were throwing everything up. And I was in my high-speed approach, and all of a sudden I saw this black burst right out in front of my airplane. And my engine just stopped, it just froze. The prop didn't go around, nothing, just froze. And so I made a turn to the starboard, and I was probably at about 4,000 or 5,000 feet, because I just started my approach. And called Mayday, and McLaughlin, my buddy, was on my wing, and so he said, "Yeah, you go through your procedures now, keep cool." And he said, "You got to bail out, so stay cool." So I remember all of the things. It just comes like all your training just comes to focus on it. So I remember to take my oxygen mask off, unbuckle my gear, take my headphone set wire off, and the procedure of getting out of an F4U is you get all ready to go, and you get the airplane slowed down to about 90 knots with your flaps down, and you get about 90 knots, you trim your airplane up so it's going to stay in a nice glide, and you stand up in the seat, and you dive over like you're diving in a swimming pool. So I remember all these things. I get up on the seat, and I dove over, and I know I'm about maybe 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 feet. And I don't know how many Chinamen are around there, and I don't want to make a target sitting in a goddamn parachute for those guys to shoot at. So I made what is called a delayed jump. I waited until I figured about 1,800 feet from the deck, and I pulled my D-run, and chute opens. I made one oscillation, and I hit into a small embankment of a small hill with my right foot, and I undid my chute and scrambled over this hill. We did on the reverse side of the hill, and the guys were on top flying and buzzing and everything, and I don't know, I don't think there were any Chinese around there, but I really don't know for sure. But they stayed over me till they ran low on fuel, and then by then there was another flight came over me. This was like maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then the 4-plane flight came over me, and they covered me. My buddies went back to the ship, and these guys finally got almost dark, and they didn't want us to land aboard the carrier at dark. This carrier is a G carrier is only 500 feet long. The Essex class that I flew with off of in World War II was 1,000 feet long. So you take this little 500 feet carrier and put it in the middle of an ocean. It doesn't look very damn big, believe me. And so they didn't want anybody operating after dark. So anyway, I get on the lee side of this mountain, and everybody's gone. And I know where I am because the road, highway number 1, is along the coast, and I know that goes from Pyongyang down to Seoul. So I know where it is, and I figure I'd get down there and get on that road. And so that night, I crawled down this hill and got on the road, and I'm about, I don't know, about maybe an hour or 2 hours to get down to the road. And my foot had just given me a fit, kind of really hurting bad. So I had snow packs on. I take my snow pack, lace it off, and stick in my pocket, and start hobbling along. I got down that night and I found a willow grove, and I cut a willow with my K-bar and made a crutch. And I rested that day and got really squared away. I had my web belt on, I had a canteen, I had my K-bar, I had a 38 holster and with a 38 revolver, and a first aid kit with 2 syrettes. The foot wasn't hurting bad enough for a syrette because that makes you really groggy and you don't know what you're doing. So I laid around that day and rested. That night I started out. I figured I could walk maybe 2 miles an hour. Maybe with my foot, if it didn't get too much worse, I could get 2 miles an hour, maybe less than that. I knew that I was about 90 miles behind the lines, 80, 90 miles. So I figured 5, 6 days at 18, 20 miles a night to get there. I had no idea how I was going to get through the line. I worked that out when I got there. I got up that night and started walking, and I made good time. My foot was really hurting bad, but the crutch was helping me, and I was able to make pretty good time. And I had to stop about every hour and rest for a little while. And again, the adrenaline really shakes you up bad and puts a shock in your body where it takes you a little time to get your strength back. So anyway, I'm making pretty good time, and it's starting to get dawn. I'm looking for a place to hide, and there's a snake in the road. So I take my crutch and I hit it in the head and killed him. And I take him and find a place in another willow grove where I could hide. I got some rods and build a little rock thing, build a little fire, fill my canteen cup about half full with water, skinned the snake and staked him, and I boiled the snake in the water 3 or 4 pieces at a time, and I boiled them and eat them, and really good. I'd eaten rattlesnakes when I was working with a boys camp up in Lake Arrowhead before the war, so knew pretty much how to do those things. So I ate the snake. He was probably, I don't know, 24, 30 inches long. And it tastes pretty good if you had some salt and pepper. It's been really good. I had no problem with water, because it rained every night. It rained. And I could catch water with my canteen cup and then fill the canteen with water. And it, wasn't much else to do at night besides walk, so it was no big deal to, take a long time to fill a canteen cup up and then fill your canteen up. So it gave me something to think about and something to do. So then that day, I felt pretty good. I was very comfortable with what I was doing. I had a full stomach, I had plenty of water, and so that night I started out again and was making good time. My foot was still giving me a lot of pain, but I was able to get along okay. The next morning, it was getting about dawn again, and I'm crossing a bridge where there's a stream under it, and I hear these frogs croaking. And I look down there, and there's a ton of frogs. So I thought, well, geez, I'll get me some frogs. If I go down and try to catch a frog, well, I can't, no way I could get near the damn thing. So I took my cane, took my K-bar, took the lacing out of my snow pack and made a spear. And I was able to spear 2 of those frogs. So I got the frogs and made camp, and I cut a fork out of the willow tree about 18 inches long or something like that, and then a smaller fork about a foot long. And again, I built a little fire. I put the big fork in the ground, and I took the little fork and I gutted the frogs and I stuck the stick up into his throat area and put it on this other fork over the fire and kept a nice little fire, not a hot fire, but a little fire going in there. And about, 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, well, I figured the guy's done, and I took him off and let him cool off a little bit, and the skin just peeled off of his big leg, great big frog legs. Geez, they were beautiful things, white meat, good. Peeled the skin off of those, ate them, put the other frog on there, and I was going to roast that guy and take the legs and put them in my flight suit pocket for the next day. So I now I'm, comfortably not hungry. I've had good protein food, and I got plenty of water, and I'm making decent time. I figure I'm about 300, 400 miles from the lines. I went all night that night, and found an outcropping and some rocks, and it was like a greasewood tree in front of this outcropping. So I crawled in this outcropping, and I was laying in there, and I was pretty damn comfortable. And all of a sudden I heard talking, and I thought, holy Jesus. And up about 30, 40 yards from me, here come 4 guys, and they got M1s. And I'm laying real quiet, and one of these guys says, Captain Godbey. And I'm thinking, Jesus, who the hell knows me up here? And he said, we've been looking for you for 3 days. He said, you're really a good hider. You have been able to find. He said, I'm Donkey One. Well, we've been briefed about this underground outfit that rescued pilots. These were former North Korean soldiers, and Donkey One was a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander. And when the Chinese came in, they took away his battalion, took all their weapons, put them out in the front to make noise with drums and bugles and whatever, and just gunfire in a charge. So anyway, he was really ground up with the Chinese guy. So he'd been educated in the University of Tokyo in Japan. He spoke fairly good English. And so I get up and I pull my weapon out in one hand, and I got my K-bar in the other hand, and I stand up. And I'm thinking, God damn, I've captured these gooks. What am I going to do with them? Well, 3 of the guys lay their rifles down on the deck, and they raise their hands. And this guy in back of them, who's the leader of Donkey One, he says, Godbey, we've been chasing you. We knew you were down, but we've been unable to find you, and now we got you, and we're going to get you back, and you'll be all right. Don't worry about a thing. So what the hell am I going to do? So I put my piece away and sheath my K-bar. He takes me back down the road, maybe a quarter of a mile, and we go down a cliff, sort of a cliff deal. And they help me down because they see that my foot is really bad. And there's like a fishing boat up on the beach there. And we get aboard this fishing boat, and we go out to sea, and this guy, his name is Kim Wong, Kim Dong, Kim something, I can't remember his last name. I call him Colonel. Anyway, we go out, and he's telling me that he's really happy that he found me, and we're going to be okay. And he gets on the radio and calls the Air Force Command and tells them that he found me and where he is. And they call the ship, and the ship says okay, and they give him a position to meet the ship. The ship is probably 50 miles at sea and probably maybe 100 miles down south. Then their helicopter couldn't even get close to picking me up from where I went down or where we were then. So anyway, he steams all night. I'm on the boat all night, sleeping on the deck. And I don't know, maybe about 2 o'clock the next day, well, here comes the ship's helicopter over, and they lower a sling down, and I signed a check with my name, rank, and serial number, and give to him, and he said he gets $1,000 for every pilot that he rescues. Now, $1,000 in 1951 to a Korean is a tremendous amount of money. I mean, a big, big chunk of money. So anyway, they get me in the sling, and they lift me up into the helicopter, take me back to the ship. The ship's radar X-ray machine is busted, so they don't know anything about my foot. Now my foot is about this big around by now. They have to cut my snowpack off. It's swollen so bad, and it turned yellow. It's been purple, and now it's yellow. And so they said, well, we got to get you off the ship and get you some medical attention. So I spent that night on the ship, and the next day they helicoptered me into the goddamn Air Force headquarters where they wanted to debrief me. So I'm in there, and these Army debriefers are playing all about Donkey One and what kind of treatment I have, and all everything that they could to find out about these guys, because they're really important guys to get pilots out of there. So anyway, I'm there all day, and think I spent the night there too, as I remember. And the next day, they put me in a beach craft and fly me to Yokosuka, Japan, where they have a big naval hospital in Yokosuka. I get in the hospital and my foot is so damn swollen that they can't do anything. So for about 4 or 5 days, I got to sit and soak my foot in ice water. And they keep the ice in that water night and day so the swelling goes out. Swelling goes out, they take some x-rays and they said, well, we're going to have to operate on your foot and put pins, and you got 7 bones broken in your foot, and you got to put pins in these bones. And that night, they were going to do this the next day. That night, JG comes in, doctor. He said, you know, I think that you shouldn't go through that operation. He said, if you put those pins in there, you're liable to have a stiff foot all your life. You won't be able to move your foot properly, and it's going to hinder you. He said, I think I can set those bones, but if I do that, you've got to promise me one thing. I'm going to put a cast on your foot, go up to your groin, and you're going to lay in bed for 4 weeks. You're not going to get up, you're not going to do anything. 4 weeks you're going to lay in bed. And I said, okay, I can do that. And he said, well, I said 4 weeks, but if things go good, you can get up in 3 weeks. So anyway, I go in and they do my foot, puts this big cast on me, and I lay in this damn bed for 3 weeks, and I mean, you can't, with a cast like that, you can't turn over, you can't get on your belly, you just lay there. And they were really good to me. They give me a sleeping thing at night so I could get some sleep. So anyway, they cut the cast off finally. He takes some more x-rays, things are looking good. Then he puts another cast on, a walking cast, up just below my knee with a metal thing on the bottom so I could walk around. So I walked around, got some of my strength back. I'm in that thing about maybe a week or so, and then he takes a look-see and he says, you know, things are okay, you're healed up good. And he said, good, then I can get out of here. He said, yeah. He said, your squadron has been relieved, all of those guys are home. And he said, so we're going to ship you home from here. So they cut the orders. I flew into San Francisco, got a train, went home, had 30 days leave, went back in El Toro in Mag 25, and they said, well, welcome back and all that stuff, and they said, we're going to send you down to Pensacola, Florida. You're going to be the officer in charge of the cadet battalion down there. And I said, holy Jesus, what the deal is that? So I go down to Pensacola, and I got this battalion of cadets that are going through, like, I went through a pre-flight school. That's what these guys are going through. Well, these guys are a bunch of very mature, 90% of them college graduates. They're really a sharp bunch of young men. And so I was the officer in charge of these guys, which was not doing a lot of, I had a gunny sergeant by the name of Barnes who did most of the work, and we'd march them and did all of the stuff that cadets were supposed to learn. My duty was to see that they got to ground school, see that their grades were up good, and see that they partook in intramural activities after they got out of class in the afternoon. So we had wrestling and volleyball and touch football, all kinds of stuff, and these guys had to participate, and they rotated. Went round robin, you had to do everything. So I was down there through Christmas, and had Christmas in Pensacola. And right after Christmas, I got orders to return to El Toro. So I went to El Toro, and I got released from the United States Marine Corps, and was taken off of active reserve status and put on inactive reserve status. And I spent the next 10 years as an inactive Marine Reserve, which they take care of, seeing where you are, sending you briefings all the time, a synopsis of what the Marine Corps is doing, aviation doing, all these things. So I really had a great experience in that Korean War. One thing in closing I'd like to do, hard for you to believe this, but Marine aviators have a tendency at times to drink. When you get together, we have song fest, and we drink a little whiskey and beer or whatever else we can find. And one of the songs that we're all very fond of, I'd like to sing to you tonight. Now my voice isn't the great voice, the great baritone that I'm used to, but this is a neat song. 'Twas a cold and stormy night, not a star was in sight. and the Hellcats were tied down to the line, stood a lonely volunteer with the mud up to his ear and his orders to fly old number 9. Now as he climbed in the plane, his temple was with pain, and his eyeballs were puckered fit to tie. As he climbed in the air, he breathed his silent prayer, for he knew this was his night to die. As he neared Hagaroo, he could see a school or two, and the women and children very well. But how was he to know that he'd go so goddamn low that his bomb blast would blow his tail to hell? He was found in a wreck, and was spread over the ground, and the crunchies that raised his weary head. With his life almost spent, here's a message he sent to his buddies who'd be sad to see him dead. I used an 8-2-10 delay, but it didn't work out that way, and a Corsair without a tail won't fly. So tell the skipper for me that he now has 23, and roll up the ladder Semper Fi. That jacket is more than 60 years old.
Wow.
And I flew on that every mission in Korea. So it's been through the mud, the snow, the ice, and whatever else. And probably some whiskey was spilled on it.
I would not be surprised. And you've been promoted since, because this is head Captain Godbey.
That's why I was in Korea, Captain. I got promoted to major when I got discharged from the reserve. And then lieutenant colonel when I got discharged. Finally got my discharge.
Hoorah, Colonel!